Hello everyone, Presley Wheel here to present my Week 5 business model analysis. So here is the fifth version of my business model canvas. There weren't many changes from last week. I've been making lots of changes all semester, so it's pretty up to date. There were only two changes to my key partners section and then my key activities. So the key partners that I added are materials vendors that will be used for the raw materials for our fabrication, and also charity organizations, which I put in my key activities that I would like to be donating to charities and attending their events. So my business revenue model is to obtain revenue from the contracts that my partners and I are awarded. We will be sharing the profit with them getting the larger percentage since they are the ones performing the work. The award money is not provided in a lump sum at the beginning or the end of the contract period, but we bill the government throughout the execution of the project, and when it has been completed, we are allowed to add up any costs that were not recognized during the duration of the work and bill this amount as well. So the expenses for that have to be legitimized and signed off on by the contract specialist, who are denoted as one of my main partners. So the way that we can package our products and services into various offerings is by providing employees for work performance, which can include multiple services, and then another part of the package is to provide various materials that are needed for the jobs. So for pricing these various offerings, the main prices that will need to be incorporated are based on a competitive pricing model. So these prices may be for the pay rates for employees and the rate that's charged for materials. For shipbuilding and repair, another factor that needs to be priced is the area of the vessel that we'll be working on. This is based on price per square foot. So an example would be a part pertaining to the length and the width of the pipe that we are welding and fitting. So the key financial metrics that I will use for my business model are the traditional financial metrics. So these include the financial statements such as income statement, balance sheet, statements of cash flows. So the statements of cash flows specifically can be used to come up with another financial metric known as the break-even point. So a break-even analysis can be performed to find this point. As most of you are aware, the break-even point is the production level where total revenues equals total expenses. So in other words, the break-even point is where a company produces the same amount of revenues as expenses. So the risks for my business model. As far as the risks are involved with my business model, one is that there's typically a longer window of liability for government contracts than for private contracts. And the government can hold you liable for substandard work even after the contract is over and we have been paid. So not only that, but the government can change the scope of a contract and end the contract early for its convenience. So in such a case as it runs out of funds for a project. There's also a risk associated with policy compliance. So the government has to fulfill certain public policy mandates in its business activities. For instance, I would have to make sure that that I employ a certain number of women, minorities, or veterans. And the fact that I'm subcontracting work means that I'll also be responsible for making sure that my partners comply with these policies. As far as pricing, our competitors also incorporate a competitive pricing model. However, I'd like to talk about one of these competitors. So one of our known competitors does not recognize the advantage of this and has the most trouble being awarded contracts. In fact, they are shut out of the solicitation process from the beginning most often. So what they see as their advantage is just the advantage that they're a disadvantaged owned entity. So like woman-owned and service-disabled owned small businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned, there is set-aside money for disabled business owners as well. Disadvantaged business owners fall into categories such as minority ethnicity, having disabilities, having a financial disadvantage, and having an economic disadvantage as compared to other Americans. In this certain competitor's situation, although he falls into one of these categories, his prices are just through the roof. So this is just really not viable for his business. The clients won't they won't give him any work. They're not willing to pay that money. So this shows that it's one of the industry's best practices to incorporate both aspects into the business model in order to be successful. So to create an income statement for my business model, I requested a current profit loss statement for 2018 from one of my partners. This helped me to see where our revenues are specifically coming from and what expenses are to be paid. So from this profit loss statement, I deducted 16.5% of the bottom line to get an idea of what my revenue would be based on the profit sharing agreement between one of my partners and me. For May 2018, AMS had net profits of $126,847, and for this year so far, net profits have been $508,715. So basically this means that net I would have made $20,929 in May and $83,938 for this year so far just through AMS. Now you're probably wondering about my other partner. I couldn't do this with my other partner because he just got his business up and running and he's not been awarded any contracts yet. But I'd like to talk about this for a second. One interesting thing that has happened this year with one of the first contracts that he tried to get, it was a $240 million contract. It was for military training, which is his specialty, and he was not awarded this contract for a very particular reason that I consider as part of my value proposition. So for this partner, although his business is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, he was outbid by a woman-owned small business. And interestingly enough, this business did not have any military experience, no expertise in the work needed either. So you wonder, how did they get this contract if they don't have those credentials? Well, they, like I will be doing, partnered with another service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, and they're contracting the work out. So their woman-owned status was the primary differentiator from the other 12 competitors. All of the other competitors had the same credentials from one another. They were all service-disabled, veteran-owned, and they all had military experience. There was no differentiator. So this woman-owned small business was able to come in and scoop up that contract. This is just one example that goes to show the immense value that I can bring to my partners. So my calculation for total lifetime value of each of our clients is calculated as an award value divided by 1 minus the rate of future contracts awarded by that client, with the contract acquisition cost being subtracted from that value. So the diagram of my model's payment business model payment flows is right here. So on this diagram, the four parties are my company, my partners, materials vendors, and government clients. Activities include ordering raw materials from the vendor partners, the materials vendors. And then as far as activities that we'll perform for the government clients, this is performing the work and then providing the clients with the fabricated materials. For the payment side, this is the revenue that is from the contract award, and then I added another little arrow between my company and my partners to show that we will be breaking up the percent of profits. So what partners will I need? I've been talking about my partners a lot. Besides my value proposition and clients, partners for me play the most vital role in my business. They are the ones that actually do the work, the bulk of the work that's performed. Therefore, the main partnerships that I will form are with the subcontractors that I've mentioned. Thus far, I've identified 2. Other partners that are listed on my business model are the contract specialists that I kind of mentioned earlier. So these are another really vital partner because they are the main contact within the client organization that we communicate with. They oversee the contracts, and it will be vital that we stay in constant contact with them to make sure that they are satisfied with our work and to ensure that we are staying on track with what needs to be done and sticking to the timeline that's laid out in the contract. The risk associated with these 2 partners pertains to unsatisfactory work for both. If the subcontractors are providing unsatisfactory work or not sticking to the timeline, then the contract specialist can report these things and give us a bad performance review or make us eat the cost associated with these issues. Therefore, this creates a balancing act for me and my partners. Another partner is the materials vendors, as I mentioned. They will provide the raw materials that we'll use for our materials fabrication. So I wanted to talk about charity organizations. I added them this week after viewing fellow classmates' presentations throughout the semester. So I realized that this was one of the biggest things missing from my business model, giving back to the community. So by partnering with charity organizations, donating to them, holding charity events, and then attending theirs, I'll be able to do more with my business than just make money. So I couldn't believe that I hadn't added this aspect already. It really is a passion of mine. So one area that I really want to focus on as far as charities go is the ones that help disadvantaged women. So incentives for my partners that work with me include being able to use my woman-owned status to their advantage, as I've mentioned. And then at this time, I can't identify any impediments to working with me besides having to share profits with someone else. However, I don't see them having much of a problem with this, as I won't be asking for a substantial percentage. I don't have the details worked out, but I will probably only be asking for about 15 to 20%, and I lowballed it earlier by putting 16.5 in my income statement. So that will just depend on what we agree on. So besides the advantage I've mentioned, they will be partnering with me because I will be able to focus on other activities that they don't have the time to focus on, or not adept to perform, not as adept. So such activities include traveling to meet with clients for executive meetings, also attending important conferences and council meetings, I can provide this type of thing whenever they aren't able to make it, or like I said, they don't have the time allotted. An area that I have more expertise is that I have more expertise in finance. So I can play a major role in creating our financial statements, forecast, any other administrative activities that they might need. They can come to me, somebody they can trust to do that. So one of the benefits of an exclusive partnership is that each party is protected from one another as far as working with competition for a set amount of time. Another benefit, that is, if you can find the right partner, is that you can have a better commitment of joint success from your partner in the business that you guys do together. One drawback of an exclusive partnership is that it can be an expensive investment for upfront, but then also drawback at the end is that if you get into a partnership with the wrong partner, you could end up doing all of the work, or undesirable decisions could be made if you two face an impasse, and then that also will end up creating a drawback that entails exiting the partnership. Trying to buy out your partner can be really expensive. So the cost of my partnerships will include legal costs to set up the partnerships, the cost of paying employees and making sure that they have any certifications and training needed. Like I said, the investment up front for starting the partnership, how much money that we are investing. Also, other smaller things, creating a logo, signs, t-shirts, anything with our logo on it. So pretty much all marketing and advertising costs. So also subscriptions for search platforms, and the cost of a website, travel and meal expenses. I could think of one non-financial cost, and that is the opportunity cost of doing business separately. So this means that we are both foregoing the opportunity to earn all of the profit from a contract that is awarded. So anyways, this concludes my week 5 business model analysis, and of course, any feedback is much appreciated.